Hey everyone, and welcome back to Elevate Your English. I'm Eden.
And I'm Avery. Great to have you with us today.
So, Avery, I was just thinking, you know what's really scary for a lot of our English learners?
Oh, let me guess. Business meetings.
Exactly. Like you walk into that conference room and suddenly your mind goes completely blank, right?
Right. Even if your English is really good in casual conversations.
Mm-hmm.
And business meetings have this whole different vocabulary and, well, different rules, you know?
Absolutely. So today, we're going to tackle this head on. We're focusing on essential business English for meetings, the vocabulary, the phrases, and most importantly, how to actually use them naturally.
Yeah, and this is perfect for our A2 and B1 learners out there. We're going to keep it practical and, what's that word I love? Accessible.
Perfect. Accessible. All right, so let's start with the basics. Avery, what's usually the first thing that happens in a meeting?
Well, you gotta, get things started, right? So we have what we call opening the meeting. And there are some really useful phrases for this.
Right.
So the classic one is, let's get started. Let's get started. Simple, but it works every time.
Yeah. And another one I love is shall we begin? Shall we begin? It's a bit more formal, but still friendly.
Ooh, that's nice. And then you usually want to talk about the agenda, right? Like, what are we actually going to discuss today?
Exactly. So you might say, today's agenda includes, or we have three main items to discuss. We have three main items to discuss.
Nice start. Now let's talk about something that honestly used to terrify me when I was learning business English.
Uh-oh, what?
Sharing your opinion. How to give your opinion without sounding too, aggressive or rude.
Oh, this is such a good point. Because in casual English, you might just say, I think this is wrong. But in a meeting,
Yeah, that's way too direct.
right. So instead, we use what I call softening phrases, like in my opinion, or I believe that, or I strongly believe that.
Those are great. My personal favorite is from my perspective. From my perspective. It sounds really professional, doesn't it?
It does. And here's a pro tip. You can also use it seems to me that. It seems to me that. This is even softer because you're not stating it as a fact.
Right. Now, let's say someone shares an idea and you want to disagree, but politely. This is where it gets tricky.
Oh, yeah, this is like advanced level stuff. So, first rule never just say, no, you're wrong. Never.
Never. that would be career suicide.
So, instead, you can say, I see your point, but this acknowledges their idea first.
That's good. Or I understand where you're coming from. However, I understand where you're coming from. However, that however is really useful.
Very useful. Sometimes you can even say, that's an interesting perspective. Have you considered? That's an interesting perspective. Have you considered? This way, you're not even disagreeing directly. You're just offering an alternative.
Oh, that's brilliant. It's diplomatic, right?
Exactly. Now, what about when you do agree with someone? That should be easier, right?
You'd think so, but there's still a professional way to do it. Instead of just, yeah, totally, you might say, I completely agree with.
Right. Or that's exactly my thinking. That's exactly my thinking. And one I hear a lot in meetings is, you raise a good point. You raise a good point. To our listeners, please practice saying these phrases. They're designed to help you sound professional.
Very good reminder, Eden. Moving to the next one, you want to build on someone's idea. So you might say, yes, and to add to that, yes, and to add to that.
It makes the other person heard. Perfect. Now, let's talk about something that I think our listeners really struggle with, asking questions in meetings. Because, sometimes you need clarification, but you don't want to look clueless. Clueless means to have no idea what's going on.
Good point. You don't want to interrupt the flow, but you also need to understand what's happening.
Of course. So there are some really polite ways to ask for clarification. Could you clarify what you mean by? Could you clarify what you mean by? This sounds professional and shows you're engaged.
That's good. Another one is, I'm not sure I follow. Could you explain? I'm not sure I follow. Could you explain? It's honest, but still professional.
Right, and if you missed something because you were taking notes or whatever, you can say, "Sorry, I didn't catch that. Could you repeat?" "Sorry, I didn't catch that. Could you repeat?" Everyone understands this happens.
Mm-hmm. What about when you want to jump into the conversation? How do you get a word in?
Oh, this is crucial because you can't just start talking, right? You need to, what's the word? Signal that you want to speak.
Exactly, signal. So you can say, if I may, or could I add something here? Could I add something here?
Perfect. Sometimes you hear, excuse me, but, though that one can sound a bit, I don't know, abrupt, use it carefully.
Yes, context matters with that one. But my favorite is, I'd like to make a point about. I'd like to make a point about. It's clear and respectful.
Great choice. Now, let's think about some essential vocabulary. Avery, what are some words that they come up in every business meeting?
Oh, good question. Let's see. Agenda. We mentioned that one. The agenda is like your meeting roadmap.
Right.
Then there's action items. Action items, these are like tasks that people need to do after the meeting.
And deadline. Very important. Deadline. When does something need to be finished?
Yeah, and budget. How much money can we spend on this project?
Mm-hmm. Oh, and stakeholders. Stakeholders are people who are affected by or interested in the project.
Right, good one. And objectives or goals. What are we trying to achieve?
Very good. Now let's talk about something really practical. How to wrap up your contributions. When you've made your point, how do you finish nicely?
Oh, this is important because you don't want to just trail off, you know?
Right. So you might say, "Those are my thoughts on this. Those are my thoughts on this." Or, "That's my take on this situation. That's my take on the situation."
Nice. Sometimes you can say, I think that covers the main points. I think that covers the main points. It's a natural conclusion.
It is. We want our listeners to sound professional and natural. Now, what about when the meeting is ending? Because that's another moment where, you want to sound professional.
Of course, you can't just say bye and leave. So usually someone will say, let's wrap up. Let's wrap up. Or I think we can conclude. I think we can conclude.
Nice way to bring the meeting to an end. But before that, you might want to summarize what was discussed. To summarize our main points. To summarize our main points. This helps everyone remember what was decided.
Yeah, and don't forget about next steps. Our next steps are, or moving forward, moving forward, we need to.
Yes, the goals. And finally, thank you all for your time. Thank you all for your time. It's polite and professional.
Absolutely. Okay, so Eden, let's do a quick recap for our listeners because, wow, we covered a lot today.
We really did. So remember, friends, opening a meeting. Let's get started, or shall we begin? For opinions, in my opinion, or from my perspective, for polite disagreement, I see your point, but, and for clarification, could you clarify what you mean by? Could you clarify what you mean by?
Nice summary. And don't forget, practice makes perfect. Try using just one or two of these phrases in your next meeting. You don't need to use them all at once.
Start small, build confidence, and before you know it, you'll be leading meetings like a pro.
That's the goal.
Before we go, Avery, I think we should talk about something that our listeners probably face all the time, but maybe don't know how to handle properly.
Oh, what's that? I'm intrigued.
Dealing with awkward or difficult moments in meetings. You know, when someone is dominating the conversation, or when there's tension in the room, or when you need to redirect the discussion back on track.
Oh, wow, yes. These situations are common, but nobody really teaches you how to handle them professionally. Like, what do you do when someone just won't stop talking?
Good example. So, if someone is going on and on, you can politely interrupt with phrases like, "That's a great point. Can we also hear from others?" "That's a great point. Can we also hear from others?" Or, "Thank you for that input. Let's make sure everyone gets a chance to contribute." "Thank you for that input. Let's make sure everyone gets a chance to contribute."
Oh, we've all been there.
Yes, and it is uncomfortable. For getting back on track, you can say, "Let's refocus on our main objective." "Let's refocus on our main objective." Or, "Can we return to the agenda item we were discussing?" "Can we return to the agenda item we were discussing?" These phrases are firm but still polite.
These are helpful phrases. Now, speaking of staying productive, what about when you want to make a suggestion or a recommendation? This is where a lot of our listeners get nervous because they want to sound confident but not pushy.
But we can help them with this skill. So for suggestions, you can start with, "I'd like to propose," or "What if we considered?" These phrases show you're offering an option, not demanding something.
And my favorite is have we thought about? Have we thought about? It's collaborative. You're including everyone in the thinking process. Or sometimes it is worth exploring. It is worth exploring. That's really diplomatic.
Can we also help our listeners with another problem, time management in meetings? Because nobody wants to be in a meeting that drags on forever, right?
Oh, absolutely not. I think we've all sat through those 3-hour meetings that could have been a 15-minute email. So, what are some phrases for keeping things moving?
Right. You can say, "In the interest of time," or "We're running a bit behind, so let's." These are gentle ways to speed things up.
Those are great, and sometimes you need to table a discussion for later. So you might say, this is important, but perhaps we can discuss this offline. This is important, but perhaps we can discuss this offline. Or let's take this up in our next meeting. Let's take this up in our next meeting.
Perfect. And you know what's just as important as running a good meeting? Following up afterwards. Because what good is a meeting if nobody remembers what they're supposed to do next?
So true. I've been in meetings where we made great decisions, but then nothing happened because nobody was clear on who was doing what. So, how do you assign responsibilities clearly?
Great question. You want to be really specific. You can say, "Sarah, would you be able to take the lead on?" "Sarah, would you be able to take the lead on?" Or, "Tom, can you handle the research by Friday?" "Tom, can you handle the research by Friday?" Notice how we're naming the person and giving a clear deadline.
Yes, make it clear. And it's also helpful to confirm understanding. Just to confirm, you'll send us the draft proposal by Thursday, correct? Just to confirm, you'll send us the draft proposal by Thursday, correct? This way, there's no confusion later.
That's brilliant. Avery, I think we should mention something that our international listeners really need to know about: cultural differences in meetings. Because business English isn't just about the language, it's also about understanding different communication styles.
This is so important. In some cultures, people expect a lot of small talk before getting to business. In others, they want to jump straight into the agenda. And the way people show agreement or disagreement can be very different too. Comment below how it is where you live.
So, as a tip for our listeners, when you're in an international meeting, pay attention to the room's energy. If people seem to be building relationships first, go with that flow. You might say, "How has your week been, Maria?" before diving into business. It shows cultural awareness. For more tips, watch our episode on small talk.
Great point. Another thing, some cultures are very direct, while others are much more indirect. So if someone says, that's an interesting idea, but they might actually be saying no very politely. Learning to read these signals is just as important as knowing the vocabulary.
Absolutely. Let's give our listeners some practice scenarios. Avery, let's say you're in a meeting and your colleague suggests a deadline that you think is unrealistic. How would you handle this diplomatically?
Good scenario. So I might say, that timeline is ambitious. Have we considered the resources we'll need to meet it? That timeline is ambitious. Have we considered the resources we'll need to meet it? I'm not saying it's impossible, but I'm raising practical concerns.
You handled that well. You're questioning the feasibility without directly attacking the idea. Okay, here's another one. You're in a meeting and someone keeps interrupting other people. As a colleague, not the manager, how do you address this?
Ooh, tricky one. I think I would try something like, I'd love to hear what Lisa thinks about this before we move on. I'd love to hear what Lisa thinks about this before we move on. I'm redirecting the conversation to give the interrupted person a chance to speak.
Excellent approach. Subtle but effective. Before we wrap up, let's expand our vocabulary just a bit more. We covered some basics earlier, but there are some other terms that come up constantly in business meetings.
Okay, so let's see. Deliverables. Deliverables. These are the specific outputs or results that someone needs to produce. What are the key deliverables for this quarter?
Right, and milestone. This is an important checkpoint or achievement in a project. You might say, we need to hit this milestone by month end. And what about bandwidth? In meetings, this usually means capacity, like, do we have the bandwidth to take on another project?
Ooh, that's a good one. Bandwidth gets used all the time. How about synergy? Synergy. This is when different parts work together to create something better than the sum of their parts. There's great synergy between our marketing and sales teams.
Perfect. Well, everyone, that wraps up today's comprehensive guide to business English for meetings. Keep practicing, and we'll see you next time.
Yes, please don't forget to comment and subscribe. And if you want a one-on-one class or a group class, please contact us via our email linked below.